Hi, I'm Jim and this is Jim's Fix-It Shop. Today we're going to open up the 17-horse Briggs & Stratton engine. I got a question for some of you guys. If you've ever heard of any of these bigger engines throwing rods because the bolts going through the cap into the rod come loose. In the small amount of time I've been working on these things, I've got a hold of 12 Briggs & Stratton engines with the same issue. When I open them up, there'll be one complete bolt laying loose in the bottom of the case, the sump. And the other one will be backed out about 1/4 of an inch, and then it snaps off and throws the rod. So this is a pretty nice engine. I just put a 17.5 horse on a viewer's snapper, and that ran about $800. So I don't really want to have this blow up on somebody when I sell it to them. So the first thing we gotta do is get this off. Everybody has so much trouble breaking them bolts loose, set screws loose. And what you want to do is you do not use an Allen wrench. You lose all of your torque in the length of the Allen wrench trying to break them loose. It's too springy. You need something more solid. So you use one of these. See how short that is? That's not going to twist. Now, some of these things have 2 set screws right over top the key. This one does not. It has one over the key and 190 degrees around the side. That was tight. You ain't gonna get that out with an Allen wrench. Oh, came all the way out. The other one's over here. This one's loose. Go figure. Now, how do you get that off? Well, I made a puller. Because you can't buy them anymore. You used to be able to buy them years and years ago. And down inside of here, I use a 1/2 inch diameter ball bearing because I don't want the end of the screw messing up the internal threads on this engine. Because some drive discs are not held on by set screws. They're held on by a bolt that goes through the disc into the crank, and it bottoms out. There's a bottomed hole in this hub, and it just drops on there, and it's aligned, supposedly. But what they do before they put it on is they put a washer inside of the disc for a spacer. Now, if you're having issues where it's not down low enough, you have to take this all the way off to adjust it. You have to drop another washer in there and put it back together. Otherwise, these are much easier to adjust, but these sometimes tend to move and the other ones don't. That's why they went to them. Well, that's coming off pretty good. Now you don't want to use a wheel puller on these. I need a longer bolt, so I got to screw this in farther. And I still don't have enough length I wonder if I could drop another. I've got another ball, but I don't know if that's going to hit right. I had this problem the other day taking off a drive disc. So I'm going to have to break down and go buy another bolt. There we go. And I'm running out of thread again. Well, we're done with this for a while. Now, we got to take this little cover off. And from working on machines at the shop, I always mark the way everything comes off. Because you never know if this is going to be a uniform bolt pattern or if it's going to be something weird. You just don't know. Now typically these are sealed with a rubber O-ring. We'll see if this one has a gasket or the O-ring. I'll pop this off. And it has an O-ring. Pluck that out of there so we don't hurt it. Now, let's see. Should have a magnet around here somewhere. On a stick. I guess I don't. Oh, here's a big one. Now this is your little, I guess you could call it a drive shaft. It has flats on both sides. That's what drives the pump. And this is part of the pump too. Now we can take the sump off. And I do have another gasket for the crank, or I should say lip seal. They tend to start leaking after a while. This one looks pretty dirty, but it looks dry, so I don't think that one's been leaking. These are only torqued down to about 18 pounds, but they usually put Loctite on them. So impact is going to help. I forgot to tell you to turn down the volume. Gotta love that thing. So now, I'm gonna put a number 1 right here by the bolt just past the oil drain. Then I'm going to lay these in order in a clockwise pattern. That was not out all the way. And there's that one. Some of these may be longer than others. I just make sure I put everything back where it came from. And I don't have to worry about it. Voila. Now, get this off without breaking anything. You don't have too many places to tap. And I did say tap, not pound. This is an aluminum casting. I don't know how much pounding or tapping it'll withstand. They did say don't tap or pound on the oil filter. Not good idea. I've got a chart that tells me what the torque settings are to put this thing back together. And it really was pretty confusing. As I looked at it and it said the torque for the sump was 180 pounds. Well, I said, man, that sounds like a lot. So I Googled it and it told me 18.3 pounds. That don't sound like much. So I got out my little magnifying glass with the light on it and I looked at the chart, and up at the top, across the top, where it says all the different things that you torque on these, real small print, one torque setting said foot-pounds, and this one in the connecting rod said inch-pounds. So the 180-pound torque on these bolts, you divide by 12, and you come up with the 18.3. Now it looks like I'm going to have to take some other stuff off of here to get to them bolts. I got a flashlight around here somewhere. Well, that's pretty clean in there. This is the balancer that's supposed to make up for the thrust. And the one I took apart, this little aluminum frame that goes around the crank, that snapped, and that's what happened to that one. So I guess we're going to have to take some stuff off of here I didn't plan on. Let's turn that on so I can see. I hope it don't mess up you guys. We're going to have to take the governor off. And we're going to have to take out the camshaft. I'm going to turn this. I want to line up the timing marks, but that throws my rod way out of place to get a hold of it to check the bolts. That's a little better. Okay, there's a key on the crank that this gear goes over. Well, that thing is really floppy. I got a lot of wear on the side of that thing, like it's rubbing on something. Well, let's turn that. We'll use that key to line up the timing again. I don't know if my black mark will stay on there, so I made a little punch mark. Kind of help see it. Now, both of the lobes boy, that thing. That is not moving the way it should. I'm going to have to take that cover off and loosen up the valve so I can get this rod out of here. A couple things in there I don't like the looks of. I think we'll take a picture of that. So, we'll take this cover off next. Could be a little more involved than I thought it was going to be. Them looks like a Torx down in there. Yep. And it's a T20. Oh, lost that socket. That makes it a little looser. And we'll take this out. I don't see anything we're hitting. Oh, I see. We're hitting on the crank. So we got to turn that a little. Now it's working. Before, when I was in there, I don't know if you can see this springing. There's a tiny little spring on here. And that's what kicks that back once the engine starts out of the way. I sure don't like the way that's flopping around down there. But let's see what we need. Looks like another Torx. And I have no idea which size. Oh, we need a smaller head to get down in there. That's not even going to get in there. I think we're going to have to use guess I'll be back in a minute. I have to find my Torx Allen wrenches. I'll be right back. Back at it. While it was, camera was on pause, I took that gasket off. And boy, it just wasn't stuck very good. Just a couple of spots around where the bolts were. The rest just came off in one piece. And the sump itself, nothing was stuck to that. It just came off clean. But they say not to put any type of gasket material on there. You're supposed to put it together dry. So I did. I couldn't get my torque wrench in there. This is a number 40 Torx. And I got out my, you're gonna love this. I got out my little inch-pound torque wrench. Cute little thing. My father-in-law wanted one, so I bought him one for Christmas. And after I seen it, I said, I gotta have one of them. And I'm glad I did now. So we have this set on the maximum setting, which is 150 inch-pounds. And I can snake it in there if I turn the crank to give me a little more room. That one seems to be tight. Now we got to go the other way. That one's tight. So now we're going to put this back together. This little pressure relief thing was working a little weird when it was in there this way. Seems to be working okay now. So we got to get this snaked back down in there. I think I had to turn the crank to get it past the lobe. There we go. Now, I'm not going to seal this up tonight. I guess we're done at this point. We'll put her back together tomorrow and see how it looks. Well, I can't finish this up right now because I found an issue with the engine. And if I can find the parts I need, the next video will be assembling this. So until next time, work safe, have fun, and I'll talk to you soon. So long.